Hello and welcome back everyone to my channel. I'm Willem and this is a 2020 Porsche Panamera Turbo, and today I'm going to review it. If you have not done so yet, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and also give this video a like if you enjoyed it. The more subscribers I get, the more cool cars I get, so I'd really appreciate it. So the idea of a four-door Porsche came out in 1989 and was known as the Porsche 989 concept. Porsche then around 20 years later actually made the four-door Porsche called the Panamera, and that came out in 2009. This is a second variation of that car, and this came out in 2016. When the 2009 variant or the Porsche Panamera came out, Porsche enthusiasts didn't really like it, and car purists obviously said Porsche shouldn't have a four-door variant and so forth. But Porsche knew the success of the Porsche Cayenne that it had when that was introduced in 2002, and people sort of said the same thing. I think nowadays people have gotten used to the idea of a four-door Porsche and a more family-orientated car, and I think they know that Porsche needs to do this to actually keep making the 911. So besides the fact that it was quite controversial for Porsche to bring out a four-door sedan car in 2009, the other thing that people didn't like was the looks of the car. So for me personally, I have to agree with them. When the Porsche Panamera came out in 2009, I really didn't like the look of the original car. It was very big and bulky from certain angles, and I think Porsche struggled a little bit to hide the fact that it's a four-door sedan car. This 2016 variant, however, looks a lot better. I think it just looks so good. I think Porsche did a very good job in hiding the fact that this is a big four-door sedan car. All the lines looks very nice and it looks super neat. I think one of the cool things as well is that this car is black, which is my favorite color for a German sedan, or especially the bigger sedan cars. And it's got this pearlescent black paint that looks really nice, and it sort of shines when the sun hits it, which is really cool. And the black look just makes the car look classic overall. So looking at the front of the car, one of the cooler things you'll see are these headlamps or these headlights. They look really cool. I think Porsche did a very good job of changing them up. They're a little bit more square shaped and, you know, cut compared to the previous oval shaped ones. I really like them. It also has this little Porsche logo in the middle there on the LED in the middle, and these four LEDs around it. I think it just looks really cool. Coming down here, you'll see it's got this front air intakes, and then also on the front here you'll see these lines that go over the bonnet, and it just makes this car look really nice and slick and clean cut, and I really like that look. So when looking at the car from the side, you'll note these beautiful wheels, or I personally think they're beautiful. They match the car extremely well. They're this gunmetal sort of silver grey color, which I think looks really nice with the black. And then looking under them, there's these red Porsche brake calipers, massive brake calipers, and I love the fact that they're red. It looks really cool with the black and the gunmetal grey, and it's wrapped in these Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, which are very grippy for a car like this. And then moving to the side here, you'll see it's got these small vents. Now I think this car is a really understated car. It's very fast, extremely fast, but you wouldn't really notice it on the road. You won't think that it is as fast as it is, and these sort of small vents on the side here really portrays that sort of feel you get from the car. And also there's not massive bulges here where the big tires are. So usually in sports cars they want to bulge it out and make it look as aggressive as possible, where here it's sort of understated, and I think it's quite cool if that is what you want. So coming to the back of the car, I think it's one of the coolest angles when looking at this car. It looks extremely futuristic from the rear. You'll see these tail lamps here at the back, which looks really cool with the LEDs when they're on. And also it's got this long light strip that goes at the back here, which looks also really cool. Then you'll see the Porsche logo, and then Panamera Turbo, obviously to show that it's a turbo, which I really like. Above the Porsche logo, you'll see the sort of split or strip here in the middle, and you sort of wonder what it is, and I'll show you right now. So I think that might be one of the coolest features of the Porsche Panamera Turbo. I just love the way that wing goes up and retracts. It looks like something out of Transformers, and I'm sure a lot of people have said that, but I just really think that's one of the coolest things about this car. And then looking down from that, one of the other cool features about this car is the fact that it has real quad exhaust pipes, and they are huge. The actual exhaust pipe inside the fitting is massive, and it's got quad ones, and it's one of the coolest exhaust pipes I've ever seen. So when talking about the exhaust pipes, I cannot not mention the exhaust note, so let's take a listen. Okay, so you obviously cannot talk about the exhaust note without mentioning the engine. So when opening up this engine bay, it reveals this beautiful Porsche 4-litre V8 bi-turbo engine. I think it looks absolutely great. I love the simplicity of it. I think it suits this car very, very well. It's got this beautiful aluminium sort of plaque here at the top, the heatsink there at the back. You can see these two bi-turbos or twin turbos here, obviously shooting in air, and it's got this little Porsche plaque here in the middle as well, this 4.0 V8 turbo logo, which is also very, very cool. And it's got this little sort of red lining around it, which just shows you it's a special car and a special engine. These twin Porsche logos here as well. I just really love the look of it. So one of the cool features about this car being a coupe style car is the boot space. So when you open up the boot, automatic of course, you will see that this car is a hatchback. It's got a massive boot space. You can also put the seats down there at the back if you want to fit a surfboard or something that's longer. I don't think people fit a lot of surfboards in a car like this, but this is, you know, possible. Anything longer you want to put in here, you can. And you can put the seats down in the front as well, which is a feature you don't get in a lot of luxury sedans, and I think it's one of the coolest features about this car. So the back of the 2020 Porsche Panamera Turbo. I decided to start this interior review in the back because I think it's one of the best interior spaces, especially if you're sat in the back of a fast sedan German luxury car. The first thing you'll notice obviously is this beautiful beige interior. I think it contrasts very nice with the black. I myself am a fan of a lighter interior, especially in a luxury car like this. It just makes it feel a lot more roomy and bigger inside here. And then these seats, they are really comfortable for the back passengers. You'll see obviously it's like captain seats. It's two seats here in the back, or not captain seats, it's just individual two seats. It doesn't have a third seat here at the back. It is a sports car, it is a turbo, so you wouldn't expect that, but these seats are really comfortable. It's got this beautiful Porsche Stuttgart logo here at the back on the headrest, and they really do look the same, exactly the same as the front passenger seats, which is something you don't really see in these sports sedans cars, which is really nice. One of the other things you'll see immediately sat at the back here is this sort of media system in this center console here. So there are a ton of features. So if you're on the back of this car and you're going for a long drive, there's at least something to play with, or if you're a kid, or not even a kid, I'm an adult and I still like to play with these gadgets. So yeah, you've got different features and settings here. You've got a media feature where you can connect your media. You've got climate control features where you can go and adjust the vents exactly where you want it, and it's so cool. You can see the little vents turn on the right and the left hand side exactly how you want it, which is really cool to see and something to play with. You've got a little button for your seats, so you can control the heat of your seats, the cooling of your seats if you have those options ticked, and also a little navigation button so you can see exactly where you guys are going, where the driver is taking you and all that. Below that, there's some actual physical controls as well if you don't want to use the touch screen, so you can adjust your climate control, you can adjust the temperature, the fan speed and everything. You've got this little control knob in the middle as well if you don't want to use the touch screen, which is really nice, the fact that Porsche gives you that option. And then at the back here, yeah, you'll control your seat heat and cooling, and then also you can control the sunroof, which is also a really nice feature, this car having dual sunroofs. If you don't want to have the sunroof up in the back, you can put it off and the people in the front can have theirs on. So the fact that the option is there is very cool. Then also, obviously, talking about the sunroof, you can adjust. There's also this little button here. I wasn't sure what it did, but when I pressed it, it's this little rear sort of thing that pops up, and it gives you, I think it's obviously for the sun, and it gives you a little bit more privacy as well. So if you're on the back and the sun comes through that big glass panel there from the hatchback area, you can actually just put that up and chill. So besides all the gadgets and things in this car, it is, like I said, very spacious in the back here. The seat in the front is pretty much my position where I am. I'm 5'9", and I've got a ton of space here in the back. You can see there's a big chunk of legroom here, so I don't think people over 6 foot should not have a problem here in the back. Also, another thing that makes this car feel really luxurious in the back and nice here is this Alcantara roof line, which is so cool. I just love the look of this light colored Alcantara. It's really nice. And yeah, everything is very simplistic and minimalistic and very German, and I think it's a good look for this car. And it's, you know, Porsches have always been like that, and I think it just complements this car very well. Practicality wise, there's not a lot of practicality in the doors here. There's a small area where you can fit something, but in the middle here there's this area that pops up like this. You've got two small cup holders that sort of pop up, and then also two USB ports where you can charge your phone or whatever. So getting into the front of the 2020 Porsche Panamera Turbo, very much the same as the back, except, as I may say myself, a little bit nicer. I also just noticed this car has soft closed doors, which is a really nice feature, but you're all paying quite a lot of money for this car, so I assume that needs to be included. So first thing in the front, very nice seats. As I mentioned in the back, these ones feels a little bit softer and a little bit more accommodating. I might imagine that, but yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels really, really nice. First thing you'll notice, obviously getting in the front, for me at least, is the steering wheel. I love Porsche steering wheels. Looks very, very, very cool. It's not overly done in buttons all over the place. It's got a few buttons here and there, and it's got some features. It also has these little two scroll wheels in the front here, which is really, really nice. You can feel them scroll around. A lot of car manufacturers are doing this now, especially on the electric cars. A lot of the electric cars only have these two scroll wheels, and you pretty much control everything using them and a big touchscreen in the front. But yeah, a lot of cool features on the steering wheel. One of the best features that I like the most is this little feature at the bottom. It's got the different drive settings. So it's got a setting for drive, it's got a setting for sport, sport plus, and individual mode, where you can sort of customize every, the suspension of this car, the exhaust note of this car, the height that this car drives in, going into the different modes. And I just think it's very cool that it's on your steering wheel. Then you'll also note this little small button here in the middle. So if you press that button, it sort of boosts the car a little bit. I'm not entirely sure exactly what happens, but you have a few seconds or 20 seconds where you can drive extremely fast if you want to go and overtake someone, if you want to do something. It sort of revs up the car, and it just makes it easier to drive fast and overtake, which is so cool that it's a small button that you can press whenever you want. So obviously you can't talk about the steering wheel and not about the pedals. These pedals feel really, really good. Standard Porsche pedals, they're made of aluminium here. When you press them up and down, they just feel extremely good, and they feel so solid made and well built. It feels like a solid piece of aluminium, and I just really like the way they feel. Looking in front of the steering wheel, you'll see the classic Porsche gauge cluster. So I love what Porsche do. They put the analog Rev Counter in the middle to show that is the most important thing, with a little turbo wording there in the middle, and it just revs all the way up to 8,000 RPMs. I just love the fact that stays analog. There's two different screens, one on the left, one on the right here, and they're all controlled and showing you different features and so forth. On the left, you'll see the speedometer that goes all the way up to 350 kilometers per hour. I don't think we're going to reach that speed today. But it is there if you'd like to try. And you can toggle these screens by using these two, like I mentioned, scroll wheels, and you can show you different, your navigation you have on the right here. It can show you your trip computer, what fuel you're averaging, and it shows your oil temperature, water temperature, if your phone is connected, tire pressures, and all that. So it's very cool. You can choose exactly what you want to see at all times. So looking at the center console of this car, you'll definitely note this is a newer Porsche interior. There's a lot less buttons. It doesn't have those two rows of buttons that all the way to the left and the right of all the previous Porsches. It's a lot more minimalistic. So one thing people don't really necessarily like all that much is this piano black that's all over the place. It doesn't bother me too much, but when the sun is on it like it is now, you can see all the different fingerprints and everything, and you've got all your different buttons here. They are haptic, so it feels, when you press them, you have a sort of clicky feeling, so it does at least feel like a button. It's not a solid flat surface. But also now when the sun is shining on them, it looks like all of the buttons are on, but they're actually not. So you can see the wording of the button underneath the sun's reflection, which obviously isn't ideal, but it's also not the end of the world. I mean, to me, I'm not a person who's going to stress out about something like that, but it is something to note. There are some analog controls as well here at the top, which are made of metal. They feel very nice and solid for your temperature controls, which is something you really don't really want to control using a touch screen. And also your volume knob at the top here, where you can control different settings for your volume and your radio and so forth. Above that, you'll also see a few different buttons here for the media, the phone, and navigation. And from that, all of those buttons controls this beautiful LCD screen here in the front. This shows you a lot of different functions and features. You can control it using this knob here in the middle, it's all touchscreen as well, so you have features like your navigation, your media. Also, at least it's haptic, and it makes this sort of clicky sound when you press it, so you can control the different features, your climate control and everything. And yeah, you have a ton of different features. Your sound, you can control exactly where the balance is in the car, front, left, wherever your bass and everything. It's got a Bose sound system, which is really nice if you're into that type of thing. My favorite button, however, is this car button. So it shows you all your different settings, like I explained earlier on the steering wheel. So you can put it in normal mode here, sport mode, sport plus mode, and individual mode. And it sort of highlights the features that, you know, all the different features that gets switched on when you press these buttons. Sport plus, you'll see the exhausts go orange, so you know the sport exhaust is switched on. The chassis is in sport mode, the ride length goes low, and it's really cool to have the whole screen dedicated to this. And I think that's probably the coolest feature in this on the screen. So the practicality of the car on the front, it's pretty good. There's two cup holders here, one smaller one bigger one. And it's also got this cabby holder here, which you press up and it just flips open with a little bit of storage space here. It's got also a USB port and a 12-volt socket and things, so it is quite practical. In the doors here as well, there's a lot of space here in this little rubber mat for things that it doesn't move around when you drive around corners. And yeah, it's quite practical for a car like this. So that concludes my interior and my exterior review of the car. Now it's time to take it for a drive. So driving in the 2020 Porsche Panamera Turbo, I think the first thing that I personally feel when I drive this car is how smooth it handles and how smooth it drives and how smooth it feels on the road. It really feels like a car that you can drive every day, especially when you're just cruising along and driving normal roads. But you do notice that you sit quite low in this car. I've adjusted the seats quite a little bit, but this being a proper sports car, this is a great seating position. You have a clear view out in the front. You have a clear view of your gauge cluster, of your instrument cluster, of your Rev Counter, which is right in front of you, and that's something you want to see when you're driving a Porsche Turbo. But yeah, it's really a smooth ride. It's definitely a car you can live with every day. I drove it a few kilometers today and this morning on highways and on, you know, back roads and stuff, and it's really a good, easy drive, especially when you're not in sport mode. I'm currently in the normal mode. Yeah, it revs, doesn't, you know, over rev too much. You know, you can put your foot down and it immediately goes a little bit faster, but it's not something that feels extremely aggressive, which I think fits with the character of this car. So the other thing you notice about this car that I noticed, I drove it in Cape Town in the city center for a little bit, and it is quite a big car. It doesn't feel that big, but you notice it every now and then when you look in the rearview mirror and you see, wow, that's quite far away, that rear view, and you can feel it is a long car. So it is quite a big car, and you definitely feel it when driving around. But obviously with people being used to driving big SUVs in the city, I'm sure that won't be a problem for most people. It's just that sitting a little bit lower, it might get some used to, or getting used to. So obviously this car being a turbo car, you expect it to be quite fast. So there is a little piece of open road here in the front. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a soft launch. I'm going to put it in sport mode. You can immediately feel the revs picking up there and the exhaust opening up. So if you put your foot down, then you completely forget that this car is a sedan car with 4 doors. I mean, it is a rocket ship. These brakes are really doing a very good job, and I think it should to push a car this big that fast, and obviously to stop a car this big that fast. Oh, some corners coming up. That V8 noise. Road up ahead. Drop it down a third. gonna tell you what speeds this car just went, because it's really fast, but it feels extremely fast. When you look down at the speedometer, you almost can't believe how fast it goes. I think one of the main things about that is how composed this car is. It's so composed. Even though it's this fast, it doesn't really feel that fast, because you're in a sedan car and it's a Porsche, so it's soft riding. Even in sport mode, it's not very hard. But when I look down at what speeds it was going, it's unbelievable. Yeah, wow, what a car. One of the main things you can feel when driving on these twisty roads is that it's four-wheel drive as well. So the car really clings to the road, which is, I think you need that in a car like this. To give them some specs on this car, like I said, it's got a 4-liter V8 twin turbo engine, which is amazing. It's the same engine they have in the Cayenne Turbo as well. So yeah, it's used to push a car much bigger in size along roads at crazy speeds as well. This car has 550 horsepower and 770 newton meters of torque, which is crazy figures for a car like this. I think this car weighs just around the 2-ton mark, but that power is more than enough to propel this car forward. There's a sort of split second before the power takes off, and then you're immediately pushed back into the seat. Yeah, you just push back into the seat, and it's just such a crazy feeling. It's really like a rocket ship. So when playing around with this little toggle switch, like I said, it's got a few different modes. It's got normal mode, it's got sport mode, where I was just in. So sport mode puts the spring height is still on medium, and the chassis is in sport, and it's got the sport exhaust note on as well. So when you turn that little switch to Sport Plus, tell you what happens now. So the exhausts are highlighted, the air springs go into low mode, and yeah, this chassis is in Sport Plus setting as well. And the spoiler at the back also pops up, which is pretty cool to see. I think that's one of the coolest features. Just for me to look in the rearview mirror and see that spoiler go up and down is worth it. Got some nice twisty roads coming up ahead. Can immediately feel the steering be a little bit more accurate in that Sport Plus, just that extra little bit more responsive. The car's ride is definitely a little bit harder. You can feel the bumps, and this car just feels so solid and clinging to the road. Let's put it in manual and take a listen to that exhaust note. Drop it a gear. Woo! Oh, beauty. So if you are someone obviously looking for a car like this, I won't blame you if you buy a 4-door Porsche Panamera. And yeah, with the looks that I mentioned earlier as well, they look really a lot better than the first variants. And I think Porsche is just masterful at bringing out a car at the beginning, not looking too great, and spending a lot of time and money and effort to get the car looking proper as well, and also fits with the whole brand of the car. So just a few more specs on this car. This car is 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.6 seconds, and it tops out at over 300 kilometers per hour. That is proper supercar figures in a 4-door sedan car. It would be unimaginable to think that a few years ago, but it really is that fast. And like I mentioned, it doesn't compromise on anything. It feels solid on the ground. It really is a car that you can drive fast, and you can go around the corners, and you can have the confidence to drive a 4-door large car like this that fast, which is really cool. It comes with a PDK 8-speed automatic gearbox, where everyone knows it. It's very nice, and it works really well. So no complaints there. The only thing I would say is it's not the most exciting car to drive, compared obviously to something like a 911 or a 2-door car, where you have, you know, a smaller car. It's more agile and it feels more like a sports car. But given what this car can give you, being a 4-door sedan, I don't think there's a lot of cars that can do that actually out there. Which is why this is definitely something to consider if you have the money to buy something like this. Yes, it is very expensive. I think it's around 2.2 to 2.5 million rand, and I think that's without much options, and Porsche likes to nail you with options. I think you can pretty much option out every single thing in this car. So you are looking probably closer to the around 2.7, 2.8 million rand, which is a lot of money. But having said that, I don't think there's a lot of cars that can do what this car can do. And yeah, if you have the money, you can totally go for it. Thanks for watching.